Hello there. Churches are a part of our heritage, religious heritage, cultural heritage, and architectural heritage. So it should come as a shock to learn that the Chancellor Rachel Reeves might be about to wind up subsidies to help church repairs by ending the listed places of worship grant scheme that's been in place since 2001. A scheme that allows VAT paid on listed church repairs to be refunded. So we have money to send abroad and keep our upper echelon hotels well funded to house newcomers, but we can't find enough, maybe, to fund church repairs. And according to the Express, the Church of England is also claiming ending the funding could put food banks provided in church premises at risk. And when you find out that this scheme has the grand total budget of £42 million a year, you wonder why anyone would want to scrap such a small governmental sum that keeps our heritage alive. And why would it be so small given the huge amounts of buildings involved? Or is it because churches just don't matter anymore? So why would anyone scrap the scheme unless they were a heathen, of course? So, Richard, what do you think about this particular scheme? Does it please you?
Well, you see, indeed, this supportive funding acts will apply to places of worship of any religion, but heavily, and might I add, disproportionately affect Christian places of worship due to the more recent introduction of newer religious buildings, hence them not really being categorized as historical in nature. I mean, okay, you can look at synagogues, but I think we're only going back a few hundred years compared to some of our larger cathedrals, which require maintaining. There is always money, you see, available to protect the places of worship of a certain religion. Now, we all know that, but I am afraid nothing to protect the churches of the Christian faith, and I wonder why. You see, the far left wing of politics has always had a problem with Christianity. Again, why? Could it be because of the fact that the father of Marxism was himself the writer of satanic literature? Yes, indeed, Karl Marx wrote satanic literature, so don't be surprised if the protege ideology of Marxism, which is post-Marxist socialism, if that has a few problems with Christianity, because that's the ideology practiced by the left wing, and its roots, you have to remember this, its roots are satanic. And yes, I know how ludicrous that sounds, but go and look it up yourself. And I recommend you watch the Jordan Peterson interview with Dr. Paul Kenger on this very subject. The video is aptly named, Was Karl Marx a Satanist? But indeed, the protection of mosques across the country during the Southport disturbances was prioritized. And have no doubt those extra funds to protect mosques will be placed on top of the £117 million previously promised by the previous government back in March under the Tory administration. We have all seen the videos of churches being converted into places of worship of another faith, and the graves therein desecrated. So I wonder what could be going on. And this is from The Guardian from October last year. And I quote, according to figures obtained by The Guardian via Freedom of Information requests, almost £3 million was issued to mosques and associated sites under the Places of Worship Security Scheme from April 22 to April 2023. A significant increase from just £73,000 issued between 2016 and 2017. Strange that, don't you think? I wonder if they would allocate the same amount of funding towards dance classes for children. Don't hold your breath on that one, because Labour and the Tories together have made sure one demographic is catered for first, whilst our beautiful and historic places of worship are left to rot. This is by design. I can tell you now. No, many of you will say good riddance to the places of worship of the Church of England, especially after what happened under Justin Welby in the Church of England. And I share your anger on that matter, but those buildings predate Welby and wokeism by hundreds of years. Our churches are the empty palaces of a long-forgotten king who is returning. And if the Anglican Church goes into decline, then pass them on to the Orthodox Church or other denominations of Christianity, and don't allow them to fall into the hands of the oppositional religions or religion. Jeff?
Yes. Now, as Richard points out, you will have picked up that this scheme applies to listed places of worship, not just churches. So it doesn't just apply to Christian churches. For example, as of 2018, there were 5 mosques in listed buildings, and I couldn't get any more updated information on that. But as you would expect, there are approximately 20,000 churches that are listed, with 45% of Grade 1 listed buildings being places of worship. 45% of them. And that attracts, what did I say, 42 million a year in VAT replacement. And the Church of England's joint lead bishop for church buildings, the Bishop of Ramsbury, Andrew Rumsey, said, "The Church of England looks after 45% of the nation's Grade 1 listed buildings. These buildings are of priceless historical and cultural significance, as well as being centres of spiritual and social support to their communities. That is a lot of heritage to protect. And because they give or can supply centres of spiritual and social support to their communities, you can understand why a Labour government would want to get rid of them. We would be culturally poorer by a large margin were nature allowed to do the slow demolition job on them. We shouldn't allow it, and we should not allow them to be repurposed away from where they are, because I think that there's a resurgence coming, and we may soon have a need for more churches." Well, Richard, what do you think?
Yes, Labour are never going to want Christian places of worship to be maintained. They want Christianity gone, because secularism is what they want. Secularism is what brought about. Well, how can I explain this? What we are seeing today. I'm going to be very careful with my wording here. Secularism brought about the demise of Christianity itself. It has pushed it away, leaving a huge vacuum there, which means that one other particular demographic that Labour seem to be very fond of has crept in. And that's all there is to say about it. And also, if you do have a Christian nation, you're not going to be flooding towards large state superstructure atheistic models, are you? No. So that's Labour out and gone. There we go.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this particular decision will not be made to get rid of this fund. In fact, what I'd like to see them do is up it a bit. They can pay for everything else on the planet. Why not pay for a few churches to be repaired in the UK? Or they're not actually paying for the repairs. The repairs are being paid for. All it is VAT relief. And here we have a government. Have you noticed how they target for reduction in tax reliefs, on the things they don't like the old people and farmers and stuff like that. So, it's not too clever. Anyway, it's only a quick update on that particular situation. Well, the decision has not yet been made.
Yes.
Yet.
Interesting. A good comment here, which goes over. Sometimes I like sort of negative comments here. And Steve Smith, excellent comment here, because it's something I quite agree with. I can understand, as I said earlier, if our children are not safe around churches, then why should the church expect us to support them? That's a very, very good question. You see, the one place that was meant to be safe, the one place where you're meant to have trust and faith and absolute faith in the one good thing the greatest thing that's ever happened, and all of a sudden the devil gets in, and the devil certainly does get in, and our church, as can be seen with our churches now, it's horrific. It makes me very angry. It makes my blood boil more than anything that this is a complete satanic desecration, as far as I'm concerned, to the body of Christ. That's what it feels like when this happens. There are versions of the church, though, where this doesn't happen so much. Again, the Orthodox faith, it needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
I keep talking about it. I'm not, look, whatever denomination you are, if you've got a relationship with Christ, but I'm just saying, as in general, the Orthodox faith is quite different. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Outer Limit says VAT relief has been removed from private schooling. How will they possibly pay for all those extra school places if no longer affordable by parents? The state has an obligation to provide education. The whole point there is that if everybody leaves the private education because they can't afford it, they can't afford the VAT, they're not paying the VAT. So how is the government going to pay for all those extra teachers they promised that they would be paying for? And some schools are closing down. They're just targeting anything they don't like, the Labour Party. It's all done on an ideological basis. It's not done on a plan to make Britain a better place. It's not. In fact, some of what, I wouldn't agree with everything she said, but some of what Kemi Badenoch said in her speech about Labour not having a plan, just a bunch of announcements on an ideological basis, I'd agree with that 100%. But there again,
it was. I actually
Tories weren't any better though.
We know that. But I've got to say, look, listen. I enjoyed Kemi's speech, but take it for what it is: a speech. It doesn't mean anything's going to ever change. It was a great speech. I love listening to Kemi Badenoch talk, but that's about it. That's all she does is talk. Sorry, there's a great comment here by Maturhim, and that is, I witnessed a man being arrested in Wigan for holding a banner that said Jesus loves you. Well, this is it. You see, this is it gives you an idea of the direction of travel of society. We live in a secular society, therefore it's quite acceptable in the minds of the those that apply the, I can't say the law necessarily here, an interpretation of the law, I should say. This has gone right through our system. So it's going to go through the education system. It's going to go through the policing system. It permeates all aspects and facets of society. This is what secularism does. It's a terrible thing. Terrible thing.
Thanks, Chris Carter-Jackson, for your contribution. Some Labour MPs are from the dark side. Yes, I wouldn't put it just the Labour MPs personally. I think there's quite a prevalence of the dark side in some of our lords and masters, especially the lords.
Yes. That's really interesting questions here, actually.
I mean, this is the sort of thing that we should really be looking. The Bowser head teacher says, one people, one culture, one nation. I always stood and said that we should have one legal system throughout the UK. But that did you know that's impossible, because the law varies. When you cross the border into Scotland or into Northern Ireland, the law changes. And even in some circumstances in Wales, but not so much. Because the law of England and Wales generally is in lockstep. But we can't even do that. So how can we stop everyone else demanding their own laws in their own place? Well, again, and now we're looking at devolution, and in devolution, that's the plan. You go from county to county, and the law will change on you. You know, taxes and everything. What a joke!
I think anyway. I don't have too much of a conceptually here. Just thinking about this for a moment, Jeff. If we are living in a Christian society, okay, where we know that everything that any law is based upon will be biblical, then okay, you're going to find variances, but you're going to know exactly where you stand. You're going to have a good approximation of where you stand within the law and your code of conduct. This goes back to something I've had in my mind for a while. Do you remember when we were young lads? You're a bit older than me, but never mind. When we were young lads and we were in school, and you used to go to school and you'd have your school uniform, right? And I used to polish my boots. And I used to take my shoes. I used to take a bit of pride in it. And not everybody did in my generation, but I thought, no, I really want to do this. Because I thought, I'm not going to be wearing this uniform forever. This is the one time I'm going to wear my school uniform. I'm going to put pride in it. And I think we need to have that pride again. It's like when we had assembly in the mornings. You know, we'd sing hymns in and it was a great coming together in the morning, even if hypothetically not everybody in that, not hypothetically, if everybody in that assembly hall became Christian and lived a good Christian life, at least there was some grounding. Because I meet up with old friends of mine from school, very occasionally. There's plenty I haven't seen in years, but the ones I have, they all have this certain grounding. There's a certain level of respect that's missing from today. And that's what we need. We need to start, I don't know, just wearing smarter clothes, for instance. You look at the footage of Great Britain in the 1950s, the 40s, the 30s, the 20s. People were immaculately dressed. They really were. And then along came the 60s and everyone just turned into slobs. That's what happened. I just think the ladies wore more graceful clothes. The gentlemen were far smarter. And they all but a lot of them, were quite religious. They all attended church. They all had a similar belief system. You could leave your front door open. I remember growing up as a young kid in Rumney, one of the Valleys towns. My grandmother would leave her front door open. It was just constantly left open. You'd have to worry about anybody breaking in. And people say, oh, you just want to go back to the Britain of yesteryear. Yes, what's wrong with that? That's exactly what I want.
It's quite funny, isn't it, really, when you think about it? A person from the 1950s would not have gone into a shop, a clothes shop, and bought a pair of worn, torn jeans to wear.
Yes.
Would they?
That's a very good point.
And thank you very much to Englishman in Ulster. Thanks for your contribution. Going to church more myself now. You can still enjoy a beer as a Christian, though, so have a couple on me. Cheers, fellas. Thanks very much indeed. And we will.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, thanks very much, Chris Luke Zumides, I'm assuming. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, it is really, really quite annoying that our culture is being thrown away. That's what's happening. It's actually being thrown away. And we're just allowing it to be thrown away on our behalf. I just wonder, people who claim to be atheists, this, that, and the other, if they got a, the old terminal doctor's report, would suddenly start thinking. There's an old saying from years ago that there are no atheists in foxholes. That when you're in a foxhole in a war, you're there, the reality of your instant demise is there in your mind. And I think that concentrates the mind a lot. So,
Absolutely. That's a very good point there, Jeff. When people lived a life where their mortality was more evident and right in front of their faces. For instance, we've had this conversation a few times privately about you go around churchyards and you take a look at the gravestones from years ago, and they're all, most of them are they're good ages, a lot of the gravestones there. And then you think, well, why are they saying that people are living longer? It's because the mortality figures are skewed by the simple fact that so many women died in childbirth as well, at a younger age.
With the child as well,
and the children as well. Infant mortality rates were much higher. So with that in mind, you're going to have, today we live in a la-la land. A lot of us have faced pretty horrific things in our lives. That's not to say life is easy in the 21st century, in this secularist society, but at least people had back then, they had a sense of community and family and love. Love, what? It's a dirty word these days.
Yeah.
What's gone wrong? And there was a comment I did see earlier, and I lost it now, and I can't remember where it is. Never mind. It did sort of sum it up. Really, it was saying, basically, the devil has come down in wrath, knowing his time is short, and that's the way.
I saw that one as well.
Yeah.
No, it is sad, really.
Lovely comment here, Tina Wainwright. Yes, which I was born in the early 60s, but my grandmother still scrubbed the
front door steps.
Front door steps. Yes,
it used to be a daily routine. Yeah.
but the amount of pride that people took in their homes, and it wasn't like a sort of vain pride. It was a different kind of pride. I can't explain it. I saw it, it's like my grandmother would invite people around, and she'd make tea cakes for everyone. And I tell you, here's the funny thing. People talk about, oh, but years ago women were oppressed. Oh, they were so oppressed. Like, oh, well, I don't know on that, but I will say this. I remember years ago asking a couple of old ladies that I met, and I said, oh, I was young and naive, and I said, oh, what do you think? Don't you wish it was like this when you were younger, that you had more rights? And they were like, what are you talking about, you silly boy? And I was like, oh, okay. And they said, they were much happier with their way of life. They said they didn't throw away something because it was broken. I thought that's so beautiful. They made their marriages work. They worked towards things together. It all had a lot more meaning.
They all used to, if they wanted a new dress, a lot of them went out and bought the material and sewed it from paper patterns.
Yes.
And all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They didn't just go. Nowadays, we just order it and it comes next day, all the way from China.
I know.
So, yeah.
But
I'm not sure that we are going in the right direction, but there you go.
I think we do need to come together as a society. This is how we come together. I know we talk a lot about, and it's important that everyone, please, if you can make it on February the 1st to London, Jeff will indeed be there. Please go.
Actually, I have a little thing to show you here.
Oh.
This is from Urban Scoop, and that's what it's all about on the 1st of February. Stop the isolation. Yes. Fight for Tommy. Muster 12 p.m. Waterloo train station. Now, I've been to a couple of these things, and if you think, well, Waterloo Station is a big place, I can guarantee you will not miss the crowd. I can guarantee it. So you muster there, but the event starts at 2 in Downing Street. So I'm assuming there'll be a march there, a walk there, from what I've been told so far. So but that's the thing.
Oh, this comment here is beautiful. Stephanie Tutton, 53 years of marriage. He's broke, but I won't throw him out. That is so beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff.
That's lovely. And this isn't to say that people should put up with, if they're in terrible relationships, they should put up with it. No, absolutely. It's not about that. This is about, everything's become so disposable. Relationships have become disposable. People have become disposable to each other. And
in some cases, families are becoming disposable, aren't they?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That's a hard one.
I've been on the receiving end of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, we all. But it's trying to stay sane throughout it all and trying to maintain the love, which can be the hard thing. But yes.
Again, Jeff, this is why we need to come together. I'm really enjoying this live stream tonight more than I've enjoyed one for quite a while. I do enjoy all of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But tonight it's important because if we can just remember who we are. Some beautiful comments here, and so many supportive Christian comments as well. And that's lovely to see, because without this, we haven't got a hope in, we just don't have a hope.
Yeah.
And if we can come together and just remember who we are, just remember. It's not that long ago. Some of you might be too young to remember what it was like in the 70s and the 80s, etc., and the 90s even. Some of you were born probably watching this in the 90s. But I can tell you now, it was better. It really was better. And that's not romanticization. Oh, it was tough. In some respects, it was a lot tougher, but it was better. It was still better. That struggle was a good struggle, a struggle worth undertaking.
And back then, we didn't even know what white privilege was.
Oh, I did.
No, you went along with the it's all English privilege, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, you English.
Christine Murphy here says
I'm English as well, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. Funny accent. Anyway, Christine Murphy says, now more than ever, it is important for families to stick together and make sure the younger generation understand the history and traditions of their family and the area they live in. Yeah, I think that is very important. And I'll tell you another thing. I think if people come over here and settle in this country and they want to make a life here, they should understand us, and they should respect our traditions and values and all the rest of it. But they should also have an eye on their own, back in on their own roots, as it were. But that doesn't mean to say they have to make that subsume everything they do. And that's the issue, I think, that that seems to be coming through. But it is the understand the history and traditions of the family and the area they live in, where you are actually now, and because where you live now is, and if you stay, it's going to shape your entire family into the future. So it's important to understand and become part of it. So there you go.
I grew up in a small village out just north of Merthyr Tydfil, and there was a little place not far from there called Abercribbin that only the locals knew about. Now, as other people move into the area and the locals can no longer afford to live there, all of a sudden Abercribbin, nobody knows where that is, other than the locals who used to live there. So it's that connection to the land. And there's a lovely one here, Steve Smith. I remember my nan saying, "I don't always like your granddad, but I'll always love him." Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. That's what we have to remember, love is so important.
Yeah. From Craggith, I'm a wee lad of 37 and I make a mean tea cake, make frosting out of cream cheese and whipping cream. It's amazing.
Fantastic. Well, I'll beat you because even though I'm back on carnivore, unfortunately, I love making bar o' brith. I've got to make one for you, Jeff, as well, incidentally.
Bar o' brith, yeah.
It's a Welsh fruit loaf, okay? Made with tea, but I use Earl Grey, orange, brandy, and dates and cranberries, and white chocolate. I can tell you now, you don't know what you're missing out on, you lot.
No, I think that's the one that you said earlier.
Yeah.
53 years of marriage, he's broke, but I won't throw him out. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, this is a very true one. Families can be very painful. They can. You hurt the people, though you hurt most the people you love most, don't you? When you say nasty things or whatever, things happen. It's always, that's where the hurt really is. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, it's been lovely talking to everybody and seeing your comments, and you can see that a lot of people haven't given up hope, and a lot of people still have their faith in their religion, the religion of Christianity. So it's good. Yeah, Tommy is studying a Bible, it says here. Yeah, and I believe that to be true, from what I've heard from the people who've been to see him. So, yeah. All I can say is love to everyone, and I hope you have a great evening and a great rest of your life, indeed. In fact, yeah.
Look, it's very difficult to go tonight because there's so many lovely comments in here, and I wish we could just answer them all and put them all up. But I love to all of you, and please press like on this video and the subscribe button, and click on the all option if you can. All this stuff about Yorkshire tea and being and Earl Grey being the best tea. This is what life's about, Jeff. You see, never mind the news. Forget the news. Just forget it. This is all distraction. It's all rubbish, to be honest with you. The fact of the matter is that we are people. Okay, and we like to talk to each other, and we need to communicate. We used to have the pub for that, but all of a sudden you can't go to the pub anymore. Firstly, because you probably can't afford to go there. Secondly, because they probably just don't particularly do drinks there anymore. It's all food, and everyone's sitting around eating in silence. And but thirdly,
everyone who goes to the pub now, especially the youngsters, they sit there in a group doing this on their phones, don't they? Go like this. That's all they do.
Look, I'm quite guilty myself of using my phone a lot, too much, obviously, because of what we do, Jeff. But I will say, when I occasionally go to the pub, that thing is in my pocket. I'm enjoying the experience. I love talking to the old people in the pub. I love talking to the old people in the pub. You learn so much. They're not always going to be there, and don't forget this, ladies and gentlemen. The older the person is, the further back they're going to remember of a world that we are leaving behind. Okay, you're very honoured to be able to talk to old people these days. That's the way you should think about it. They remember things and they've experienced things that you and I never will and never could. Please remember the old people, and especially this winter now. Probably haven't said this enough, Jeff, and that is, look, if you do know of some elderly person who lives nearby who you know is, or have an inclination of the fact that they may not be financially well off and able to heat themselves, see if you can do something, even if they pop over in the daytime to sit with you so they can warm up, and then they only have to have the heating on then in the evening. If you can do that. Look, I'm just being Mr. Hypocrite here because I'm living between pillar and post, I am. But if I need, all of us need to, we can get into our mindsets to do that. Help each other. It's important.
Yeah. Anyway, Rax, I keep seeing this comment coming up, so I'm sure it keeps being reposted. Only Irish and Welsh are native inhabitants of the UK. Now,
correct.
Richard and I often have this little jibe at each other about this particular subject.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I do have some very small amount of Irish blood. I have no Welsh blood. I was just adopted and raised by a Welsh family, hence the accent. But that is actually correct. Oh, except though. Here's an interesting one. East Anglia, okay, and the sort of the area of the Iceni or the Iceni tribe, however you wish to pronounce it, where Boadicea, however you want to pronounce her name, was from. That area there still maintained up until not so long back certain colloquialisms that are native to that area that definitely have a Celtic origin. So it's a little bit of a grey area, but I know where that's coming from. That is a very interesting thing. Yeah, and by the way, if you're from the Bury St. Edmunds area and your surname is Wilson, I'm probably related to you. There you go.
Shock, horror.
I know.
Yes. Anyway, on that note, I need to go and get a drink. So
yeah, off you go.
Yeah,
I'll stay here. I'll entertain them all night.
Yes.
I loved you all anyway, and
it's been great. Yeah. I'd only end up with I've got my glass of water.
Okay.
Anyway, It's time for us to leave.
Yeah.
So thanks very much, everyone, and I hope you do have a great evening. And always look up. And at the end of the day, there is salvation out there. Go and find it, and you know where it is. So on that note, I'll say it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. But don't forget, we're early morning tomorrow. Well, not early morning, 9 to 10 o'clock, somewhere between there. We'll be doing our regular morning video, Monday to Friday. So there we go. God bless you all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
God bless.